Sometimes I think about some games I played when I was younger, and these memories feel more like fever dreams, if anything, because a lot of the mechanics I used to see in some games kinda disappeared with time, or were probably considered too experimental or not worth getting deeper into. And I'd like to talk about it a bit today. Okay, let's get the first one out of the way. There is obviously the Nemesis system in the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games, which really made the world feel alive and like the actions and the decisions you made had an actual impact in it. Basically, your enemies had an actual personality. They could rank up if they managed to kill you. If, for example, you burned one of them, you'd see them with bandages or complaining about the burns in your next battle. If you flee a battle, they would mock you and you could brand them so they would fight for you against other orcs. That was a really complex and genius system that Warner Bros. Decided to not only gatekeep, but to let it rot instead of making it a staple and a new game changer for open world games. I really miss multi-purpose tools or guns like the gravity gun in Half-Life 2 or the glue cannon from Prey. The glue cannon was really useful against enemies. You could slow them down or completely freeze them and even make yourself a defensive wall. It was also useful in the environment. You could stuff fire with it and create platforms, and that's the same thing for the gravity gun. You could throw objects and projectiles at your enemies and use it to solve different puzzles or just to create platforms. These days, a weapon like that would be split into 3 different weapons. Devs are afraid that the player would get bored if they don't constantly introduce new weapons instead of showing them different scenarios where one weapon could be useful. It's also way more efficient to have one weapon that does all these tricks instead of having to switch if there is a fire in front of you or if you need to fight or something. Ghost of Tsushima introduced a great way of guiding and showing the player his next objective direction, without having a minimap and breaking the player's immersion. As you may know, you have to use the wind. Based on the objective you pinned on the map, it will go in a certain direction, and if it stops, you only have to swipe on the pad to activate the wind again. It sounds simple, but God does it work well, and it feels like a step in the right direction in terms of quality of life and immersion improvement. I hope other studios are planning on taking from it and they'll make something similar or in their own way. I absolutely love Superliminal, and it's one of my favorite puzzle games. It's typically what I like to see in an indie game. One ID, or mechanic, that gets pushed to a certain limit or in a captivating direction, instead of being all over the place with abstract and unfinished IDs. The concept is simple. It's all about perception. Something may seem huge, but if you rotate it or put it in a certain angle or location, it may seem very small. You may need to make a massive key smaller in order to fit it in a keyhole. It's such a fun concept that I wish to see more of as a type of puzzle or as a weapon in AAA games. Back in the 2000s and 2010s, we had so many games where you had to choose between good and evil as a player, and it would influence the story, the characters, the dialogues option. You would have access to certain quests depending on which side you were on, and you could get multiple endings, and the gameplay and abilities would even change in some cases. And that added so many great replayability, and it gave me a feeling that I was making actual choices and decisions in my playthrough. Games like Mass Effect with the Paragon system, Baldur's Gate 3, the Fable trilogy, Infamous or Undertale all lets you play in the way you actually want to play. Don't get me wrong, I love the narrative of adventures and well-written characters. I just want the ability to make these characters mine in some way. Like my Geralt on my first playthrough in The Witcher 3 probably didn't make the exact same decisions as yours did. And that's what makes me want to do another playthrough and see the dialogues and the quests that I missed. Too many games are holding my hand and are scared that I get paralyzed if I get to make decisions or actions that requires me to think about the consequences that are gonna come out of it. I really enjoyed the State of Decay series, and Zombie U was really promising at first. These two zombie games were far from perfect, but it had good ideas that I wish we could go back and look into. I love that the character you were playing could die at any moment, and that it would be permanent. Instead of decay, you would upgrade some skills and get some loot with your character, and you could find its body with another character. Whenever I lost a character, I actually felt bad for losing them. Like I should have done better, and rather than just trying again and doing the same thing, I actually learned from my mistake and tried to avoid losing another one. I wish we had this mechanic in other games and that the character would have a real personality, a family, a relationship, and that you could make decisions with them. I'd love to see a bigger impact in the group morale. When one of them is no longer with us, maybe your brother would get depressed, maybe a new leader would arise, or people would be blaming each other for this incident. I think there's a lot of potential with this system, and I look forward to see more of State of Decay 3 after the Xbox showcase. I'm on the fence, but I feel like they had a lot of time to cook. I trust them. Zombie also deserves some love. I think Ubisoft should try to explore this IP again and put a smaller team on it. Where the hell is Scribblenuts? These games were so fun. Solving puzzles and making the words you wrote appear as objects or living things is so freaking cool. Playing this on the DS as a kid blew my freaking mind. I felt like a god. I'm not the biggest fan of AI, but I think in this case, a sequel or a spiritual successor in 3D using this technology has a lot of potential to become something different and original. I'm not saying these mechanics disappeared or whatever. I just feel like they should be way more present, especially with their importance and how game-changing they are. Like, it just pisses me off to see all of these ideas, these great freaking ideas, kind of lost with time, or just that the developers decided to forget about them, or that they just don't want to work on these ideas or build upon these ideas anymore. It's pretty sad. So anyway, that's pretty much my rambling for today. I'm sure I could make a part 2, so if you're interested, don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you for watching, and have a nice day.